Hello and welcome to Beyond the Events, which features conversations with industry leaders discussing their careers and experiences producing the world's most talked about events. I'm your host, Starr. Today I'm joined by Stefanie Tomlin, General Manager of King's Theater in Brooklyn, New York. Stefanie will share insights into her career, venue management, and venue operations. Stefanie has over 10 years of experience in high demand positions at prominent venues within the sports and entertainment industry. Throughout that time, Stefanie has worked with countless musical artists, companies, and actors in different capacities, including Quincy Jones, Trevor Noah, MTV, and Glamour magazine. In Stefanie's current role as general manager of the 3,000 capacity King's Theater, she oversees the day-to-day and event-related operations for the venue. Stefanie and her team have hosted a variety of events, inclusive of the Pierre Moss Fashion Show, Beastie Boys Story, and 9 Inch Nails concert. Stefanie believes in leading by example and makes decisions based on justice, honesty, and respect. Stefanie lives and works by a code of loyalty, empathy, and competence. This directly affects how she does business, fosters relationships, and gives her time. Stefanie, I'm so happy to have you join us today. Welcome to the program.
Starr, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. So I'm going to start off. Let's just start off at the beginning. How did you get your start in the industry?
Early. So I started in the industry really as an intern for the New Jersey Nets when they were in New Jersey. I grew up being very into sports. I was an athlete. And when I went to school, I had the choice to go either as a lacrosse athlete, and I was actually recruited D1, or take an academic scholarship. I took the academic route and went to Seton Hall. And upon my arrival there, I decided that I wanted to start working with the Seton Hall men's basketball team, who, as you know, actually play at Prudential Center and have since I went to school there. So that was really my first taste of sports and the business of sports and entertainment. And from there, I actually was blessed enough to get an internship with the New Jersey Nets. And I was an HR intern, but I wanted to touch every part of the business. So I, did game presentation, I did sponsorship, I worked with every single department that would let me in. I asked them for a day or many days. So I was actually an intern with the Nets for 2 seasons.
Wow.
And on the day I graduated from Seton Hall, I actually got a job offer from the Nets.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's really incredible, honestly. I mean, most people don't have that opportunity. And also I think it's great to have that background and to be able to see all different facets of the industry. So I'm going to take a step back even further. Is this what young Stefanie saw herself doing? And what made you choose this path?
Well, I think young Stefanie wanted to be a singer, but based on some kind of semblance of reality, Stefanie realized that Stefanie can't sing. So we had to pivot. So once I retired my dreams of being a singer, I decided I wanted to be a sports agent. So everything that I did, from choosing Seton Hall, who has an excellent sports management program, to working for the Seton Hall men's basketball team, wanted to be in the business of it, close to the athletes, so that I understood how to move in these circles. And then even to working with the Nets, I ended up, my first job out of college was the executive assistant to the chief legal officer and the senior VP of human resources. So I wanted to be on the legal side because I thought that a lot of agents do have law degrees, sports law degrees. So that was what I thought I was going to do.
Makes sense. So then obviously you pivoted at some point.
I pivoted again. I pivoted.
You did. I mean, we all have to. And, I've pivoted many, many times. But I think Well, I've heard you obviously have held several highly sought after positions. You already spoke about some of the ones that you held at the Nets. And I would just love for you to talk to us a little bit more about some of those career experiences that you've had thus far.
Sure. So once I decided that I didn't want to be a sports agent anymore, and a lot of that was just I didn't want to, I always say I didn't want to babysit grown men. It's more than that though. I decided I didn't want to be on the team ops side of anything. And while I love law, I thought that if I decided to do a law degree, it would probably be in civil rights. I would probably be a civil rights attorney, candidly. So while I was working for the Nets, though, I fell in love with the entertainment aspect of putting on a game. The game is just one very small part of our business. Mm-hmm. And I just fell in love with how this whole event comes together. You've got halftime shows, you've got, celebrities in the seats, you've got tens of thousands of fans that have to get in, get out safely, hopefully spend some money while they're there. And I just fell in love with it. I was hypnotized by the event itself. And so I set out in my career to learn every single thing I could about the business of arenas. So when the Nets moved from New Jersey to Brooklyn, I was in a really unique position because our ownership and the tenant of being a Barclays Center tenant, which is what the New Jersey Nets are, it was just a really very, very incestuous opportunity and company for me. So it was a very easy pivot for me to go from working from the team side to the venue side. And I haven't looked back. I mean, I've been a venue rat ever since. So I was the executive assistant to the general manager for a long time. And something that, you and I have talked about a lot is just the importance of great leadership and sponsors in the business. I had a man by the name of David Anderson, who was the general manager for a while at Barclays Center. And it was trial by fire. I mean, he threw me in. He would take a step back and say, listen, you sat me down in your first interview with me and told me what you wanted. You told me that you wanted to learn every part of this business. So now you're going to learn it. And you are going to speak on my behalf. And I expect for you to move like a general manager. So I started cutting my teeth pretty early. And when I transitioned out of the executive assistant world and into the operations world, it really put a fire in me.
That's awesome. So obviously that transition, did that take place while you were still in Brooklyn, or did you transition when you went to LA? Okay, so talk to us more about that transition period.
Sure. So I transitioned to the special events manager at Barclays Center. And that basically my job was to book and execute anything that wasn't a game or a concert. Now, while I was doing that, I also was starting to work on events. So my first concert was Rush that I worked on at Barclays Center. And just getting to understand, unions, getting to understand, and I think you know this, mm-hmm. Event management is really the nucleus of everything. They're the folks who take the information from whoever's coming into your venue and disseminate it to all of the other different departments. So I got touch points with every single department while I was working as a special events manager and also moving towards being an events manager. And so I did that with Barclays Center for 2 years. And then I moved to Los Angeles, still working for AEG. And I was an event manager at the Los Angeles Convention Center. And once again, just the hub and getting to touch every single part of the business. So I did that for, 5 years.
Time does fly.
I lost track of time. And then all the while I was doing production on the side. I was doing one-off productions for lots of different organizations. I worked with Local Citizens. I worked with Hot 97 for Summer Jam. I've just been all over the place, putting on events.
No, definitely. I think that once you get a foundation, you're able to apply it to so many different positions. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But that also leads us into your current role of venue management and operations as the general manager of King's Theater in Brooklyn. Share with us some insights into the day-to-day role of a general manager in the theater space.
Yes. Well, it's a little bit of everything. It's employee management. I'm charged with driving results from my team. So I oversee box office, security, guest services, production, back of house, all things front of house, marketing, facilities, housekeeping. So we have to, as general managers and as venue managers, we have to set budgets. We have to drive results. We have to make sure that the brand and the way that we are viewed in the world is right and tight. We have to stay current. I really set out to make King's Theater not just a concert venue or a theater, but really a cultural hub. I think that when you position yourself in the industry as someone who does a little bit of everything, so we are doing anything from concerts to podcasts to, presidential candidacy events. We're doing a little bit of everything, and I have to make sure that the train keeps moving.
Yeah. Well, you definitely do a great job at that. And I know that it's a lot to it. And I think that's
the most.
Yeah, it is the most. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize with the venue. Like you see an event venue, and it's like if you see a theater or arena, there's so many other things that happen within a venue. And you and I know that from basically being on the booking and operations side. Like the venue is essentially the convention center of the community. And that's what you're expected to be. So you're not just doing the things that are just front facing, you're doing private events, you're doing social events. There's just so much that goes into it. But I'll lead into that with saying, how do you keep a cap on it all? How do you keep that tight and running smoothly?
The grace of God.
Many prayers.
I think you do it with a team. Everything that King's Theater and really any venue that I've ever been a part of is the direct result of the people. So everybody showing up to work is step one, right? Making sure that the culture within your organization is not a toxic one. It is making sure that people feel good when they come to work so that you can drive those results from them. Making sure that, you are leading with empathy and respect so that people feel good and safe when they come to work. And then we work like dogs. We work all day, every day. It's a 24-hour job. There are no hard stops at 5 o'clock and come back again at 8 or 9. It is a grind. I always say, like, nobody sane works in this industry. Nobody that likes having, their own time and a work-life balance and any of those things works in this industry. Heavens no. But what I have set out to do is try my darndest to make sure that when people come to work, they feel comfortable. And so it's not a hardship or a grind to come into work. It's fun. It's why it's so hard right now with all of our venues closed and us not really producing events. We're all at home, or we're having to pivot into different parts of our business that, isn't usually the day-to-day. So instead of doing, a couple of film shoots here and there, that's our whole business right now because we can't have butts and seats. But how do we keep it together? Sometimes it's duct tape and a prayer, and it's a lot of hard work, it's a grind, and it's a lot of teamwork. There are a lot of different parts that have to come together, hundreds to thousands of people every single time, Beyonce hits the stage, or, Nine Inch Nails comes to Brooklyn. Every single time there are hundreds of people that come together to make that happen. And I think that's the magic of it.
Definitely, definitely. I think I've been in the industry for a long time as well, and just knowing how much you have to rely on people, that's the thing. It really does take a village to put these events on. And the other thing that you touched on, and I think is so important to even talk about during these times, is our business completely has pivoted. We're not having live events. So a lot of people have the perception that we're closed. We're not closed. We're still doing location shoots. We're still doing filming. We're trying to find other ways to have revenue, because we don't want to be in unfortunate situations where there has to be, layoffs or long-term, pivots, essentially. So I will go into, you kind of touched on it, but what do you love about being a GM?
I think the first thing that came to mind, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it is being in the driver's seat is something that is very humbling, but also very exciting. I have a team that's mine. They're my people. They're my team. I know them. I know what makes them tick. I know what drives them. I know what pisses them off. I know, what makes them go. And I think I have, unfortunately, well, really fortunately, if you think about it, I've been in toxic work environments. I've had bad bosses. I have worked with people that make it really, really hard. And I always said, when I'm in the driver's seat, I will do it differently, because there's a different way to run this business. And I think, you know this, you work for an organization that I really respect and admire in terms of how they invest in their people. My favorite thing about being a general manager is being able to be the change that I wanted to see as I was coming up and cutting my teeth in the industry. And and I think just, being personally responsible for the lives of so many people and touching communities in the way that I think that King's Theater and what it represents, what we've been able to do. I think my favorite thing about King's really is what we mean to Brooklyn and what we mean to Flatbush. Having opened in 1929, closed in 77, and laying dormant for all those years until we reopened in 2015. And the people that we hire are people that are from the neighborhood, that are personally invested. You feel that sense of pride from them when they come in. And seeing them sit up a little taller, seeing them professionally develop, being able to pour into our staff and watch them fly and flourish. I'm doing my job right. They won't stay with me forever. If I'm doing my job right, they will acquire the skills and tools necessary to professionally develop and go fly. And that's my favorite part, I think, about being at the helm. It is seeing people outgrow me, right? Seeing them go off and do whatever is next, under my leadership, under the team's leadership. It's magnificent. It's the best part of the job.
Yeah, and you touched on it. I think a healthy environment is so important. We've all worked in the best and the worst, situations.
Worst.
And I do think, and I think you would agree, there's something to working in a toxic environment that does help you grow as a person. You don't want to stay there, and I would never encourage anybody to just stick with a toxic environment, but it does demand.
But you lean into it.
Exactly. You really do.
Lean into it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mean, a lot of our work is chaos. It's chaotic. It changes all the time. It never goes according to plan.
Never.
I haven't seen it once. I've done thousands of events in my life. I've never seen one go
Nope.
plan, right? And I think the beauty of hardship, hard bosses, of hard work environments, of all of that is if you actually can take a step back and center yourself, and really take a look at what's happening around you, you'll find that if you can still yourself, your mind, your heart, your body in the midst of chaos, that's what makes you an excellent venue manager.
Yep.
It is a skill you have to learn to acquire. And I think I agree with you. You don't stay in them for too long, because sometimes that toxicity is so much that it can become cancerous to you. And then you find yourself, running around with that same toxic approach. If you can figure it out, I mean, I am better as a result of hardships in my career. I am more detail oriented because I didn't have space to fail. I am I'm less sensitive, and I can pinpoint and see through a bunch of mess, because I have dealt with a bunch of mess in my career. And if you can do that, if you can achieve that, you're the best. You're the best at it. I am so grateful that I didn't have it easy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think it does give you something that gives, and especially in our areas, I will say that. And that's not to say that other areas of the country that aren't demanding, but that New York, New Jersey environment is like it's survival of the fittest.
It's incomparable.
Exactly.
It's not comparable. We are in the absolute most competitive landscape for our business. So if you can do it well in New York, if you can do it well in New Jersey, if you can do it well in LA,
yes,
girl,
exactly. And like you, I did my bid in LA too, and it really does. I think it's really important, and that goes into this point. I feel like if you have the opportunity, especially if you're young in your career, to move around and get different environments and different experiences, I believe that that's important, because like you said, versatility is everything.
Oh, it is. I mean, look, I am a country girl from Kansas City, Kansas. So if you had told 10-year-old me who wanted to be a singer that I would be at the top of my career in the most competitive landscape for entertainment that there is, I would have told you were completely nuts. But ultimately, it is very important to not have a fear of flying and not have a fear of failing.
Exactly.
I just jumped out and we'll figure it out. We'll wing it and see what happens. And I have fallen and I've learned some hard lessons. I have been humbled in my career like you would not believe. I have learned when to be quiet. I have learned when to speak up. And I think that if you're a person that has core and central values, it's easier to navigate these kinds of spaces, because it's not as sexy as everybody thinks it is. It's not sunshine and rainbows and puppies. It's
real.
Fine. But when you want to compete, and I love to compete, when you want to compete, it's an industry that can be really fulfilling.
Exactly. And I think that's why we do these long hours and everything. It's not for the faint of heart. It's definitely, if you want, you have to have grit and grind and passion, and you have to love what you're doing. Because if not,
and a little style.
Exactly. A little bit of flair. So I will ask you this, taking into account how obviously everything has changed. What do you see becoming like the new normal, as people are saying, for the events world coming out of this environment?
I can tell you what I hope it is. I hope that all of us know-it-alls in the sports and entertainment industry can learn that we don't know everything and find some peace in not knowing. Now, I know that is a radical thought, but it's radical, I know. But I hope that we can find some peace in not knowing. I think that all of us are going to have to learn how to pivot. I think that safety has always been our non-negotiable. And I think that, for people who are listening to this, one thing that you can rest assured and know is that any venue you are stepping into, our number one priority is the safety and security of our guests and our staff. So I think that knowing that safety is our true north, I don't worry about concerts coming back. I don't worry about, seated, ticketed events coming back. But I do think that you're going to see an emphasis. There's going to be a lot less glitz and glamour and smoke and mirrors. I think that something that I hope that's wonderful that happens, that people that are really talented and serious about their crafts are going to shine in this next iteration of entertainment. People who care deeply about what they do, just on a musical podcast. Sports is different. Mm-hmm. I think we should talk about that.
Yes.
for music and for those kinds of ticketed events, you're going to see people who are really talented shining. I think you're going to see, I think because budgets are going to be cut, you're not going to see, 7,000 pyro effects during the show and confetti and, CO2. And, I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of that.
We're going back to basics.
We're going back to the basics. Now, look, I'm a Midwestern girl. I love basic things, okay? I love real, simple, straightforward entertainment. I always have. And so I'm excited for that iteration of this.
Awesome. And likewise.
What do you think's next? Now, see,
what do you think?
We're not just going to talk to Stefanie today because Lord knows what's on.
I am the GM of Beyond the Events, okay?
Tell me what's going on. What do you think's next?
I agree with you, though. I really do see it. I definitely see a lot of the glitz and glam is going to come out of it, and a lot of the raw is going to get back into it. I think people are craving it. Definitely feel like it's going to come back really strong whenever it does come back. It's going to come back strong because one thing that brings people together and one thing that brings enjoyment to people is gathering. And whether that's going to be a concert or a private event, we're still talking about social events, weddings, everything. People want to be together, and it's our natural nature too. So I think we'll see that. I do think that there'll be an influx of figuring out how to use venues more in a virtual environment. A lot of us are already doing that. I know your venue was, my venue was, but I think now it's going to be hardcore. Like, we got to get this right. Let's get it right. Let's do it and offer new things to our clients and thinking through that. So I'm looking forward to that and the innovation that's going to come out of this.
Yeah.
And people being out of their comfort zone.
All day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree.
So I would ask you,
what is question in there for you?
I know. Not interviewing me. Stop it. So, this is what happens when you have your friends on the program.
Exactly.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that wants to enter into the events industry, specifically into maybe the role of general management or venue management operations?
I think be fearless. I have learned that the more I've moved with trepidation and fear, the less I've been able to accomplish. I've been strong and wrong, and it's been better than me being timid and not taking the step. I think that this is an industry where you do have to cut your teeth and pay your dues, but I caution people on telling young folks that they have to pay their dues, because I think they mean something different than what I mean. So, and that's why I say be fearless. I don't think that young people need to wait. I believe that they are smarter, savvier. I think that things are more intuitive to them than we give them credit for. I've been learning that a lot, just taking time to kind of pour into the young talent in our industry has been very rewarding for me. And I've gotten to do that through the company that I co-founded with one of my great friends and one of your colleagues, Brittany, with Black Women in Sports and Entertainment, but also just through mentoring. I think it's important to have discernment. I'm not telling you to just jump out the window, but don't be fearless. Be fearless. Go out and get it, because these doors are open and they're waiting for you. And not everybody has an in. I think that one misnomer about the entertainment industry is that you have to know somebody to get in. And it is absolutely about who you know once you get up in here. But I didn't know anyone. I didn't know a soul. I didn't know anybody who did this. I didn't know that my job existed at all. And it's a reason why I want to create pipelines for young and fresh talent. But until I can get to you or you can get to me, no, don't be afraid to just jump in. And you cut your teeth how you cut your teeth, you know?
Yeah, at least you could say that you tried. I think that's
the
thing. And like you, I had no idea that my role existed prior to getting into this industry, honestly. And I will go into a little bit more of Black women in sports and entertainment, because being a mentor and opening up doors is something that you and I have both discussed on length. And I think that it's something that's needed within the industry. Sure. But I would also just ask, like, tell us a little bit more about BWISE and the motive behind it.
Sure. I think when BWISE started, the inception was I had just gotten the call. I was AGM of Kings at the time. I had just gotten the call that my name was being floated to progress into general management. And the general manager at the time was transitioning to a different part of the business. All I could think about was I wanted to call somebody and ask them a million questions about what it is to be a Black woman at the top of a venue. And I'm a member of IAVM. I'm, pretty connected throughout the industry, but I didn't know who to call. I didn't know a Black female general manager. And so I called Brittany and I was like, I don't know who to call, and I feel like I should. And I don't think this exists, and I think that it should. And so we got to talking about what's important to us, right? And we knew that we wanted to engage with other people who looked like us in the industry. We knew that we wanted more education opportunities and professional development opportunities. We wanted more panels. We wanted more talks. We wanted more retreats. We wanted more come to Jesus meetings. We wanted more I'm so sick of this meetings. Like, we wanted all of that. We wanted to build something where we could really pour into one another. And we wanted to teach the next generation of young female leaders how to do what we did faster and better. And there was no ego in it. It was just, we need to build this thing. So we built it. And so Black women in sports and entertainment started, and we've been trucking ever since. We've got a great network of young women and not so young women who are in this industry, and we're talking, we're sticking together, we are letting each other know what's open, what's next, what's new. And I think that kind of ecosystem is really, really important, particularly for folks like us who had no clue that this existed, but had all of the skill sets and know-how and chutzpah to get it done. I want to see more me's. I want to see 100 million more yous in this industry. So we just built it. And if you build it, come.
Likewise, likewise. And then you touched on something that I think is so important. It's obviously to tap into the youth in the industry because they basically know a lot of stuff that we don't know, especially you can see how it's changed even in this time. Like virtual, they're on it and they know it like that. But I also think you touched on another thing that's really important is transferable skill sets, because I didn't start out in this industry. And many people always want to know, how can you get into the industry if you didn't?
Sure.
And I think it's really just figuring out what your actual core skill sets are. So can you talk to us about some of the core skill sets that you've seen, that you've been able to take with you and have made you be successful along this path in this career?
Sure. I don't know if I want how technical I want to get, but I think attitude is a number one very important skill set. Having an attitude where it's a can-do attitude. It sounds so cliche, but it's true. I think you gotta just problem solving and troubleshooting is a very, very, very important skill set to have, because as I mentioned before, none of this ever goes according to plan. So being able to pivot, being flexible, being able to be approachable, because communication is key in this industry. We have a lot of different moving parts. There are a lot of departments. Not everybody is looking at it from a holistic standpoint. As a general manager, I have to look at every single part of the business. It's how I learned this business. But you also have to know how to work with the people who they're only worried about their job and how their little part of the body contributes to the whole. I think EQ is important. I think that what I like to do is do check-ins at the top of meetings. I like to ask everybody how they're doing. I want to know what they're carrying when they're coming into the workplace. And I'm not Dr. Phil. I'm not going to be able to solve it all, but as a leader, I do need to know what kind of baggage everybody's coming to work with, so that I can pivot and give them the support they need to do the job that I need them to do. So EQ is important. Rigidity is the worst enemy that you can have, I would say, in this. If you can't make the turn, if you're so caught up in this part of it that you can't see, I would say being a student always and often is really important. I am still learning something new about this machine every single day. And the minute that I think I know it all is the minute that I need to retire. And so I like to approach things with a lot of humility. It's, but also having confidence in what you know, because there's a lot of people who think they know in this industry that really don't know. So trusting your gut, but being open to the 700 other ways there are to skin a cat, and to do one job. Gosh, I got lots of gems. I mean,
no, I think you really. No, seriously, I think the core of what you said is always being open and always being a student and learning. Because as we've seen, our industry before we came into it was really one way for a lot of years. And there's been a great change in the last, I would say, honestly, like 10 to 15 years. And you see it. And now it's just requiring that things can't be exactly the same as they were before. So survival is going to be really dependent on your ability to rely on others and not be so set in your ways, and being open to continuing to learn. And you're right. People management is everything too. Because you're managing multiple personalities and you don't go home with anyone at night to know what they're going home to. So we spend so much time with each other. You touched on that earlier. Like it's your second family.
We're doing 12-hour days at a minimum on show day.
And that's a good day.
You're doing exactly. It's really closer to 16. Like I have slept at the arena.
Likewise.
I have slept, girl. Slept at work.
I know. Sometimes I wonder, why do I pay rent? You know, it's that sometimes it's that kind of thing. That's how
This is real life. Yeah. Why? Because I mean, we spend most of our days at work. So yeah, it's prudent. It's a very important stuff you're touching on.
So one of the last questions I'll ask you is, what is one event that you would have loved to or would love to work on? It could be during your lifetime, before your lifetime, something that you would want to do, and why?
This is a hard one. If I'm being completely honest, I have so many answers to this question.
But you got to pick the top one, okay?
Man, I'm gonna say it out loud and then I'm gonna have to go get it. Dang. All right, here it goes. I would like to work on the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the pinnacle of the chaos of this industry. Like 700 million different moving parts, but it's like the top. I mean, I've worked with the Grammys, I've worked with the Oscars, I've worked with the Daytime Emmys. So like those are out there. VMAs, which you know all about, don't you? So I think the logical next step is just the Super Bowl. I love sports. I think that I will probably down the line probably get right back into sports business. And I don't know, the Super Bowl just feels like the Holy Grail to me.
Yeah, likewise. I feel you on that, and I hope.
Well, let's go get it. You want to do it too?
Let's go. Let's
go get it.
But we spoke it into existence. So it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, you made me say it, so now it's out there. Now we got to go get it.
Exactly.
Give us a couple of years. Easy peasy.
So, what's the best way, I would say, for the audience to connect with you?
You can connect with me on LinkedIn. It is Stefanie Tomlin, and that is Steph with an F. You can connect with BWISE's company page. It's Black Women in Sports and Entertainment, open parentheses, BWISE, close parentheses. And you can follow me on Instagram. It is Steph_with an F. No, with an _F. You're gonna have to spell that out for him. I'm sure that I butchered it, but Steph with an F. You'll find me on there, maybe.
Well, definitely, they can start out with LinkedIn, and they got you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh man, it's over.
It's a pleasure. Yeah.
You know, is there an overtime?
There's overtime. Look, you're already a
Call me after this.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And be sure to follow Stefanie Tomlin on LinkedIn and BWISE on LinkedIn as well. And her Instagram is Steph, which is STEF_ with an _F. And be sure to subscribe to Beyond the Events on YouTube, and also follow Beyond the Events on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you'd like to listen to audio version of the show, you can find Beyond the Events on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. I'll see you next time. Thank you and have a great day.